It's going to be showing you a solo flawless prophecy done on the Pit of Heresy dungeon, as the Pit of Heresy dungeon and the Shattered Throne are going to be available next season at power, and then there's going to be weapons that you can find from the dungeons, and there'll be specific perks and specific weapons that you can only get from the dungeon in terms of like perk customization. So this is going to be a video showing you Solo Flawless on it if you haven't already got the Crimson Echoes Emblem, which you get for Solo Flawless on it, and also if you're coming in getting the weapons on your own, and it's showing you how to do that. I'm not sure if you have to Solo Flawless to get the God roll, or how the rolls work, if there's curated rolls and all that stuff, but this is making it before the new season, which we will run it again next season on free characters, because changes might happen with the dungeon. We don't know that yet, and there might be one big change coming, but this is just a run sort of the last of the season. We're doing it on a hunter, we're doing it with a rocket / Witherhoard type build. Now rockets are going to get a buff next season, so what the gameplay you're seeing here, it's going to be much easier doing this loadout next season because of the 30% damage buff. The boss will be easier, everything. But if the dungeon hasn't changed much in terms of difficulty, have they added champions, if they've done nothing with the dungeon and all they've done is brought it to power, then it's not going to change much, to be honest. I played this dungeon to death, to be honest. I've played it, I've made videos on videos on videos. So if people are interested in really in-depth comment on it, just watch all my other pits that I've done. They're all on my channel. I might make a playlist for just the dungeon videos that I've done, and you can see all the pits that I've done. So we've done this to death, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I am aware some people might not have seen my old stuff. There might be a new subscriber, there might be new to Destiny. So I have to realise that, but I also have to realise existing people have been around a long time. They've seen this run, they've seen what goes on, but you might not have seen it done with rockets. Yeah, so that's what sort of, give me the motivation to do it with rockets. It's a little bit different, isn't it? So with this first part, we're just clearing the mages. We're going to do it with one sword. The reason for that, you can get multiple swords. Obviously, if the sword runs out, you need to kill a Nightbearer to get that sword. But the Nightbearers take longer to spawn now than they used to. When Beyond Light sort of launched, the game engine got like remade and things got changed. There was a couple of changes. This first encounter, the major change was the Nightbearers taken forever to spawn in. Don't know why, but what will save you time is just clearing the 3 mages, the Knight, the Wizard and the Shrieker with one sword. How do you do that? Well, you need to save up on ammo. You shouldn't be using it to get from one place to the next if you can help it. If you cannot help it, try to use your super more, because your super on the sword consumes 0 ammo. Therefore, getting more supers on the mages just means that you're more likely to get them all done with one sword. It all depends on the symbols. Now I had line, or burger some would call it. I don't call it that, I call this one line, but I'm not going to say and tell you what my call outs are and what other people's call outs are. Whatever it is to you, I've got this symbol, and this symbol's dangerous because there's double ogre left and right. But we've got a super on the sword, we'll do a super on the knight, and 2 light swings. Then we run into where the major is. Now because of my audio, I knew it was Shrieker. You can hear the Shrieker from outside. But even if it wasn't, even if it was Wizard, the safer place would be in here, because the 2 ogres outside will push. There's one on my right, and then there's one on the left. So if you get that symbol, you've got to be quick at what you're doing, because if not, clear the ogres instead. Your choice, whichever's easier to you. They're the 2 strats on it. We'll take the final symbol. We've got 56 ammo. I believe we're on Wizards. Now I recommend using a solar primary. Our loadout for weapons is Witherhoard, a solar SMG, which is an SMG from Prophecy Dungeon. Any solar primary that you like will work. And then a rocket launcher. Now the rocket launcher has auto and holster. So does Witherhoard when you have Catalyst. So these weapons pair well for DPS. because you can swap between the two and maximise your damage. So that's why we're showing this sort of build off. In terms of mods, the most important thing is that you want, obviously, not Hunter, Nightstalker, bottom tree. We Gambler's dodge, so when we dodge we get our melee ability back. You want 100% mobility with the 6 Coyote exotic, which means you get double dodge, 100% mobility, which is 11-second cooldown on your dodge, meaning you have sort of infinite invis. Now the way I'm doing it, not particularly on the first encounter, but sort of the Ogre Maze and the Totem section, you want to be running this loadout. It's going to be kind of needed. However, it depends on what's going to go on with the ball duplication. For those that don't know, later on in the fight, on a couple of the encounters, there's orbs that we need to dunk. Now you can dupe these orbs, not just in this dungeon, but in other encounters and like in other activities. The public event from season arrivals, etc. Menagerie used to be able to do it. So the thing is with it has a history. The ball duplication has a history in this game, and the history is when it first launched, people found out how to dupe the orb. So Bungie patched it, and the patch made it that the ball duplication was the same, but the how you go about doing it different. There's two different ways of doing it. The first one was, I believe, you swap your weapon before you dunk, and then there's one where you swap your weapon mid dunk, which now, in the current state of the game right now, it is you swap your weapon just before you dunk the orb, which I'll talk about when you actually see it. That's how it is, and that's how it was originally, but when they changed it, they done a fix to fix it. Right behind the scenes, it changed the duplication. Now if they change it again, which I believe they probably are going to do it, if they do, then the orb dupe might go back to its original, or the other way, or they might patch both, and then there might not be any orb dupes. If there's no orb dupes, the strat that I've done in the video isn't relevant for next season. Therefore, if that happens, I will rerun all 3 classes without no orb dupes. I've already done it with no orb duplication, so if you're really interested in seeing that, I've already done it. Just know that it's going to be a longer run, etc. But we have done it. But anyways, on this run here with the Ogre Maze, if you're quick enough, you only ever encounter one ogre. There's multiple ogres in the maze. I go the same way every time. I go left, middle, right. Now, because we're duplicating orbs, we can just take a straight path to each door. Obviously, if we weren't, we'd have to go in each room, find the knight, get the orb, etc. Now, if you're quick enough, which you can be on this strat, you only encounter, as I said, the first ogre. The second ogre you won't, because you're quicker, you're ahead of his rotation. What you need to imagine is there's a bunch of ogres in this maze, and they're on a path and on a route and on a natural path. That path will be the same all the time unless it's interrupted. The only one that you interrupt is the one on the left. But if you're slow enough, the second ogre will be right here at the door right here, making it difficult to get the second dunk. So you're on a timer, basically. As I said, there's routing, so there's ogre that's going to be coming up this lane, but we're well ahead of it, meaning we're not going to see it. If you are slower, you're making it difficult. But the quicker you go, the better it is for this maze. This route here is the route I always take. Whatever route that's best to you, because there's multiple ways to take it. Pick the safest one and the easiest one for you, but that's how I do it. Left, middle, and then right. The next change that happened in the dungeon was that the ogres didn't despawn, or they didn't despawn in time. So, stand to the left side of the wall, look at your radar. Why? Because the radar will show you the ogres despawning. Once that's happened, you can place a rally. Advise you probably do. Fill up on ammo, and then we can clear these acolytes. We'll clear these acolytes, start the encounter. You need to go to the plate right away, because as soon as the encounter starts, the plate's on a timer. The plate needs to be touched every 10 to 15 seconds, whatever the timing on it is. You need to. you'll know that by the sound. There's an audio cue, and that noise will get louder and louder. Just know that you need to go back and forth. Obviously, we're going to do the orb duplication, which I'm going to show you how you do that on a hunter. I've done it already on a warlock. We've done it on a titan back in the days, but this is how you do it on a hunter. So we'll get our first orb dupe. Because there's not many adds around me, right? Then I can do 3. I do 3. I reactivate the plate as well, and then we're invis. Then it's invis dodge immediately, because that's when the Verminites spawn up above, the Thrall and stuff, and a lot of other adds. This is where you need to be more careful. Now I recommend now you only do 1 orb dupe at a time. If you try and do more than 1, the Knights will wreck you, Thrall will wreck you down. So you're best off just doing it 1 by 1. For each start you can do 2, 3 when there's no adds. Use Witherhoard to your advantage, use Nade to take out as many adds as you can. You can get orb duped safely. I believe we're on our last orb dupe. Now if I duped there, if you saw that cursed, I would have died. More than likely. Also, when you're doing the invis and dodging, make sure you're going back and forth. It's just a rotation, left to right, touching the plate, left to right. Keep playing it like that. That way, you don't have to take out any of these adds. It makes that the hardest encounter within the dungeon. The easiest, well, one of the easiest ones. Obviously, if you're not practiced or well rehearsed with the orb dupes, then you might not get that. If that's the case, you'll have to re-kill up at night and just keep going like that. But you can survive. I mean, to be fair, he's the best surviving class, so you could still do it if you didn't dupe one of the orbs or something. On to the jumping encounter. So there's symbols in this section as well, of course, which the symbols all over the map relating to what the symbols are. I haven't even looked at what the symbols are because we take a select pattern. So I'm looking at my radar. Radar is very useful in PvE. People won't believe that, but it is. I've just saw going through past middle that there's definitely one in middle. So there's 3 wizards to kill. So my thought process is the thought process of elimination. If I go right side first, because it's comfortable to me to go right. If there's no wizards here, then I know that there's 3 wizards. I know this sounds silly. I know there's 3 wizards, either middle or left. Simple as that. And it's the good thing about it is you go right. It's not a long task just to go middle from right. So this is why I always do this way. I don't memorize the symbols. I've been doing this dungeon ever since it came out, and as I said, I've never bothered to learn this room because you don't need to. Is the answer. You just need to be careful with your jumps and take a route. So the acolytes and adds will tell you if there's a wizard in that location. We've already got one. As I said to you before, we have a wizard in middle. Now I took one on right. So this one, so the one in middle, what we're going to go to will be the last one. So we've already figured out, without having to go in middle, we've already know that there's a wizard in middle. Okay? This just makes it way easier. Don't bog yourself down memorising all these symbols for this bit. Okay? There's just no need. We'll go to middle now and get the fire wizard. If you're plenty of charge of light, try keeping it because it'll help you out at the boss fight. It just means that you don't have to worry about getting charge of light because that is something you're going to want to use. Now next season we're getting 30% damage buff on rockets. High energy fire is a 20%. So the footage that you're seeing, a rocket launcher is going to do the more damage than what mine is now, without any charge of light, and it'll be 10% more than what it is right now. So this loadout isn't so good now, but it's going to be very good. Like, it's okay, Witherhoard makes it, it's okay, but next season it'll actually be really, really good. Going in on this rock here. The rocket launcher isn't the best for wizards and stuff just because they can evade. Mine hasn't got, this one particular one hasn't got tracking on it, but we're using it simply because it's got auto and holster. It hasn't got clusters, to recognise that. It's going to be less damage that way. But ideally you want a cluster bomb auto load and holster roll. If you're pairing it with Witherhoard, that would be the best roll for this playstyle. There's multiple playstyles with rockets, there's no yes or no to it. You see so many people who'll say this is what you must do. Well no, it's not what you must do. There's multiple playstyles with rockets. Yeah. So there's the auto loading playstyle, focusing on DPS and stuff, and just not having to reload. Even good for mages and champs. This is really good for champions and bosses. Then I showed you the Warlock build, the fully automatic rockets. That's full on burst damage. You don't be using your rockets on adds, you don't be using your rockets on anything other than a boss or a champion, etc. And then you're saving your nade, you're getting charge of light all for that one instance. That's one playstyle. Another playstyle would be having a chain reaction rocket. There's nothing to say that chain reaction rocket is rubbish compared to cluster bombs or what have you. It's really good, but it's just what playstyle are you playing, what class are you playing. So this is what people need to understand, that there's different roles that rockets can play within the game, like any weapon. Okay? So it's a versatile weapon, and it'll even be more versatile next season. Just as long as people understand that, there's no the god role, because there's multiple god roles. There's the demolitionist type god role. There's the field prep god roll, which I love. There's so many different roles. There could be a few more. We might get more perks, but as long as people understand that. So we're using Orpheus rigs now. We're switching some perks around. We're going to make sure we've got a similar amount of perks on. Supercharged, all that stuff. We're going to have the rocket launcher perk on, which is going to only activate when you're using your rocket. The thing about this is good. We put the Ordnance mod on because we're not going to use our rocket, but we can maintain our charge of light. Because we don't need charge of light until the boss, but we can farm charge of light and not lose it. If we had high energy fire, we would lose our ×3 or our ×4 before we got to the boss. And if there's no more adds alive, you've just messed up your damage, your DPS. This won't be as important to do next season. But obviously for this it is. So I've got the rocket launcher mod on to maintain my charge of light. We're not going to use our rocket once, because it's all focused for the boss damage. So, but we will switch that mod. We'll switch that mod to ING fire. So now with the boss fight, tips to where to stand. It's a good place to stand where the stairs are. You stand where the stairs are, all the acolytes group up like so, and the knights and everything. As long as you jump out of the way of the knight, obviously don't go Shrieker side, because the Shrieker will kill you in the back. But on the knight you can just jump and juke him, meaning that you can take out any adds. So it's a good way of doing that. And you can also clear the adds around the knight, which I like to do. Just because you play a bit of a game of cat and mouse at times. If you just go up there with a sword, you constantly just sword block, and you're wasting loads of ammo doing that. Whereas if you just quickly go up there, kill them in 5-10 seconds, then go for your sword, it just runs smooth. Then you can just melt the knight. I don't even have to block, because it's just me and the knight. You can jump over him as well, but you're ideally waiting. I don't mind if I don't end up supering him, but I could have supered him, of course, to save on sword ammo. Same as the first encounter. Prioritize your sword ammo. I mean, it's not so much that bad on this, because there's 3 knights anyways, so you need to take 2 of them out minimum before you even get to the sort of boss. So you don't really need to optimize your sword ammo, but if you was to, then this is sort of how you would do it. On the wizard side, we'll take out any acolytes, same with the knight, but we're going to use the sword this time, as the wizard doesn't really push you, it only stays inside the building. That means we've got a lot of cover around the back. Use your super when possible. The important thing is when you're super and the wizard. You're super and the wizard, don't jump and then super. The super will do no damage to the wizard. It'll just whiff. For whatever reason it will. The best thing to do if you are using your super on the wizard, sword super, run up on the ground and a ground slam. That's it. That's all you need to do with it. Obviously we've got the times 4 charge of light, so we don't need to farm orbs. Obviously if we didn't have the times 4, I would be farming the orbs. Best place would be off this Thrall. Thrall spawn in waves. 2 waves. Obviously you've got acolytes that are already here when we come at the boss fight. But there's some more Thralls linked to each ball jump. Dupe. Not ball dupe, but ball dunk. We get a dunk here, you'll see ads spawning with Thrall. Forget about them and get your second dunk. Another important thing is, whatever side you're going for your orb, have it be the opposite side of where you need to dunk. You see now I'm going to the opposite side. Why do we do that? Well, because the boss guards the dunks where you want to dunk an orb. If you go to the same side you want to dunk, the boss will stomp you as you try and get that dunk. So you manipulate, we're actually manipulating, I'm doing 2 things here. I'm avoiding the ads and was manipulating the boss. We're also manipulating the boss a little bit here because the dunk is on the, like behind me now. But we don't want the boss anywhere near that dunk. As I said, there's nothing worse if you get a ball dunk and then you get stomped. Because if you get stomped, you've just lost damage. So you need to do damage within the ring. To avoid any of that stuff, just follow the rules of dunk or orb, the opposite side. Manipulate the boss, because the boss will want to come near you. If you let him come to you the wrong side, like so, you can see he's at the other side where we've already dunked there, so we're good. You also want to clear the mages. The major knights are on unlimited spawn, but there's a 20-second window where they don't spawn back up. That's important. You can do a Witherhoard while the boss is immune, then go in the circle, and he's already taken damage. Then we'll do a grenade, and then this is where our tether comes in. While you're doing your tether, you want to be doing Witherhoard shots and rockets at the same time. Now this play is not quite perfect. That right there, I lost damage. Just that, even just that small window. Doesn't look like much, but that's cost me the 2 verb. Because I didn't have my Witherhoard reloaded. As I didn't wait for the, I didn't give it enough time. But you make mistakes. But that's just a small mistake. But because the damage is so tight on the 2-phase for this, it's cost me the 2-phase. Okay. Next season, if I'd done that exactly the same thing next season, he would have 67% of his HP would have been gone. It would have nearly been a 1-phase. Okay. Not so much a 1-phase, but getting there, right? So as I said, this loadout's going to be much better next season, but still make it work. If I played perfectly, the boss should be around the U or the M. Half HP or just below. But you've got to play a perfect play for that. So I don't expect anyone getting 2-phase on this loadout, because it's really difficult. There's a lot going on there as well, because the Cursed Thrall are there. We've put ING Fire on. ING Fire goes when you clear an ad. You can't clear the Cursed. So what do? We maximise damage. You jump over the Cursed so that they explode on each other. That way you maintain Charge of Light. That way you have 20% damage buff for all your weapons for the whole boss fight. Now I don't run the rocket launcher mod for the boss fight because the rocket launcher mod isn't as good as high energy fire, because high energy fire is constant. The rocket launcher is 1 stack per shot. If you go 5 stacks, okay, it only affects your rocket launcher. High energy fire is better because it affects your Witherhoard, it affects your primary, it affects your heavy. The Ordnance mod isn't that good. It will be good for certain things next season. I can see it being good for certain things. A Pacific time, you might even be able to one-shot a champion with it. Looking at the damage numbers, looking at what I've seen, Eyes of Tomorrow and stuff like that might, in the right circumstances, if you do a tether, and stuff like that, you might be actually be able to one-shot a champion on your own solo. On Master difficulty. Not so much GM, but on Master you will be able to. That's my prediction with it. Looks that way. That's obviously stacking all the debuffs and buffs together though. Now we're on the second phase of the fight. Same thing. We are going to use a sword though this time to clear out the knights. Just doesn't really matter as long as we're safe and not taking too much damage. We'll take out the remaining acolytes. I am spamming my sword a lot more on this, and we're even going to drop the sword. We're going to drop the sword because we just want to speed it up a little bit. Actually knocked the knight off the bridge. Reason for that is because I've got anti-barrier in my SMG, so there's a lot of stagger. Anti-barrier rounds was changed this season so that adds just get staggered. They even works with pulse rifle, but it works more on SMGs, which looks intentional, and it's a good change to be honest. It makes, you know, your anti-barriers, it makes them feel powerful. The flinch is noticeable and it can stop a lot of dangerous situations. When we get the last dunk, obviously you do your 2 dunks, then you stop dunking, but we can do with a hard shot on the ground and it takes out most of the thrall. I forgot to mention the resistance mod, so I've got Concussive Dampener and Solar Damage Resistance. But Solar Damage Resistance on just in case the boss hits. If he does, then we've got that protection. We've also got Concussive, which works on a lot of things in the game, and you don't really need reserves. I'd rather have a resistance mod over rocket launcher reserves, because rocket launcher reserves only add 1 rocket each. And for what we're doing right now, we don't need 8 rockets over 6, because we don't even get sort of the time to sort of shoot 6-8 rockets. So it doesn't really matter much with that. With the Foul Knight, we'll get him one shot again. Again, we're going to take him out with an ability or a melee. That way we keep our charge of light. If we were to kill him with a weapon, we'll lose a stack. We don't want to be losing any stacks, because if you do lose stacks after boss fight, which is easy, you got Witherhoard, and you might accidentally clear some of the cursed. That way, if you do clear 2 of them, you still got 2 stacks. So it's a safety net, is what I'm trying to tell you. That's one thing I forgot to do though. Always remember to switch back and forth between the Ordnance mod and the high energy fire. Because having the Ordnance mod means that you won't lose your stacks providing you don't use rocket. Simple as that. And then when you do switch to high energy fire, you'll hear an audio cue with all your weapons. It just means all your weapons are proccing high energy fire, that's all it means. Then again, we'll get a dunk. We'll jump up in the air, jump out of his solar pearl. And we're doing the same, basically the same thing. Teveren, and then rockets. We missed a rocket there as he sort of done his sword move just as a rocket, so that was unfortunate we missed that. So on this phase as well, it wasn't perfect. It was going well until that rocket missed, I would say overall. Important that we keep jumping up and down as well. Cursed floor beneath you, which most of them have. On the final stand like that, try to get a Witherhoard shot on, and then for me I wasn't wanting to risk standing too long, as it would be a wipe. As you saw with the damage, we're about 10 to 15% off. So it is tight, but that 10 to 15% next season would be a kill, because it's 30%. So 30%, you add 30% onto what we've already done, in terms of the rocket wise, that's enough damage there to finish him off. It would be. It would be a safe 2 phase. And you won't be at 1 phase with a sword anymore, because swords are going to get nerfed. The solo 1 phase on Zulmak won't be with swords. I highly doubt rockets will be able to do it. Unless something comes out, but I highly doubt it, just because obviously this rocket's unique, it's got all on holster, but most rockets won't have that, you know. And even though it's got all on holster, you still have to rely on a weapon like Witherhoard, which Witherhoard's great, but it is slow. It's not burst damage, it's damage over time. Damage is really good, one of the best in the game, but to one phase with it, no. Definitely not. Which even Anarchy can't. So, because we're on the last phase, we're just kind of rushing through it. Just sort of get to the end and get it done. Always be careful as well when you're approaching a location, as like when you go up the stairs, because the knight sometimes can hit you in the back. But it won't be so bad for myself because I've got that solar damage on resistance, but always try and fight from the back, especially on the wizard. That way the boss can't see you and you just find the wizard. Obviously clear out all the acolytes on most of them. That just means that you're less likely to die. That's all it means. Just need one more dunk, then we'll prep the thrall and stuff. We haven't got our super, so this is going a bit quicker, but we don't need a super to finish off the boss. It's just a kill at that point. I never cleared out the adds on the Shrieker side as well, because the Shrieker side adds, they don't push you, they only push you if you're on that side. But if you play on the other side like me, the adds on the Shrieker side don't touch you, so you don't need to take them out. At the very least, I would use them to farm Charge of Light. If the boss had more health than what he did, I would be farming Charge of Light now. But we don't need to, as I said, because the boss is at 10-15%, so we can just finish him. Dodging rockets at the time, just making sure to stand up in the air. There's a couple of thralls still left that I left up. Got no heavy as well, that was another thing that's slowing this down a little bit. Pretty much one shot and that'll finish the run. Hope you enjoyed, thank you.